Hey, Rise Too Cool here. Today, seeing as Halloween is so nearby, I am going to do a top 10 countdown of my favorite urban legends. Top 10! Okay, so number 10. Okay, number 10, we have the Well to Hell. The Well to Hell is actually Russian miners were drilling a hole in Siberia. It was 9 miles deep before they actually broke the ground, which burst open a lava pocket. Because this lava pocket opened, they said that they could hear like roars and cries from what sounded like demons and other creatures. And even one of the miners thought he saw something with wings escaping from this hole. So they believe that this is a gateway into hell. Um, but yeah, it's in Siberia. It's about 9, maybe 10 miles deep, so it's pretty big. And yeah, they believe that it is an entrance into hell. Number 9. In at number 9, we have the kidney theft, or the organ thieves as they're known. What happens is usually is either a male or a female go on a date, and without knowing, they get slipped a drug, and when they go back to the other party's house, they fall asleep, and then they wake up either in a bathtub full of ice or just on the bed covered in blood, and notice that they've got a scar from obviously where the organ's been removed. Now, this was fairly popular in 1991. This used to happen quite a lot to people, and sometimes it still does, and usually the organs get sold on the black market just for, I suppose, just for extra money for most people, which I think is quite disgusting. But I mean, there's other ways to get money. You don't need to go and rip out someone's organs for it. Number 8. In at number 8, we have Aren't You Glad You Didn't Turn on the Light? Um, this is probably one of the more popular ones, but I didn't find it as sinister. Basically, what happens is there is a young girl in college, and well, could either be girl or boy. Usually it's girl. Um, she is at the library studying, trying to revise for her, obviously, exams or whatever, and she realizes she forgot something back in her dorm. So she goes back to her dorm, and she hears funny noises, obviously like sex noises or something. And she was like, "All right, okay, I'll just leave the light off," because obviously she thought her roommate was having sex or something. And she gets what she needs, and she leaves again. Then when she comes back later on, she just goes back to bed as normal. And then she wakes up in the morning, and written on the wall it says, "Aren't you glad you didn't turn on the lights?" But then lying on the bed of her roommate is obviously her roommate's dead body. Um, so it's quite gruesome, but it's like a warning. Make sure you always know what's going on around you, kind of thing. Number 7. Next is the Hook, or Hookman. This is about a young couple who go to Lover's Lane to basically have a good time and enjoy themselves. They're listening to the radio while they're making out, and what happens is there's a breaking news bulletin that says there is a criminal who has escaped from penitentiary, and he has a hook for a hand. So as they're obviously in the middle of nowhere and parked for no reason whatsoever. Basically, they decide, you know what, this is a bit creepy, we're going to leave. So they drive away, and it turns out that the hookman was actually at their car. So when they get back to, obviously, their house where they were going, they get out of the car and the hook is hanging from the door handle. So this was really popular. Well, this actually came about in like the mid 1950s, 1960s. This was really, there's a lot of interpretations for the different things that they think it could be about, but basically it's like if you're in the dark, you never know who's going to be around, kind of thing, which is, it's kind of creepy if you think about it. Number 6. So number 6 is called the Halloween Hanging. This one is basically, there was kids at school that were doing a play for Halloween, and they were showing like the witches and that get hung so that they can see that they're dead, and there was obviously one of the kids got hung during the play, and obviously the audience thought it was all like fake, like it was happening in the play. But it turns out at the end of the play, when it's all finished and that, and everyone's left, they realize that the child was actually hung during the show, and no one had noticed. So that one is quite dark, considering it's about children. I mean, you don't really want to go out like that without anyone realizing and no one being able to help. Just everyone's watching you. Number 5. Okay, so number 5 is called The Hanging Boyfriend. This one is quite similar to the hook hand. It's basically, there's a couple, they're out at Lover's Lane, and the male decides he needs a toilet. So he goes out, and obviously he hears something, so he goes to investigate, and the woman's in the car, and she can hear like scraping and scratching away on the roof of the car, so she starts panicking. She sees someone standing behind the car. This is where the hookman also comes into play, because they believe that it could be him that's involved with this one as well. So usually what happens is the woman starts up the engine of the car and she tries to drive away, but there's something pulling her back and she can't leave, and the car is trying to move but it's tugging against something. So she can hear like a scuffling and scraping on the roof. So she stops and she reverses, and this is when the obviously what happened was the person that they'd heard outside had hung the boyfriend and tied the rope to the back of the car so that he was on the roof, but then as the car drives away it actually hangs him properly, and then so because of that, effectively the female killed him without realizing what she was doing. So when she reversed, the body falls back onto the windscreen of the car. Number 4. Number 4 is called The Gas Station. This is actually the opening scene to the movie Urban Legends. What happens is the woman goes to the gas station to fill up her car. The attendant comes out and starts filling up for her, and then he asks for a card so she can pay for it. So she gives him the card. He goes inside and comes back outside and tells her that the card was declined. So she has to go in with him. So she goes into the shop, and she starts to get a bit freaked out and drives away. And obviously she hasn't paid for the fuel or anything. And the man's standing there shouting, "There's a killer in the back seat! Wait, there's a killer in the back seat!" And yeah, he ends up beheading her in the car. The only thing is the gas attendant knew about this, so he didn't have enough time to warn her. which is why you should always check your back seats. Number 3. So number 3 is called the Dead Dog. This one is quite gruesome. I just think it's a shame because it involves an animal as well. What happens is there's a little kid lying in bed, and she hears a tap dripping, so she gets up to turn the tap off, and she comes back into her bed, and she puts her arm off the edge of the bed, and she's used to, when she goes to her bed, the dog licks her fingers when it's down the side, like underneath her bed, and so she does that, and she feels it licking her hand, and she hears dripping again, so she goes away and she checks all the rest of the taps, and she comes back and puts her hand down and starts licking her hand again. But she's already sorted all the taps, so there's nothing on, but she hears dripping again, so she gets up and she looks at the closet, and there she sees the dog has already been killed and it's hanging, and there's a note next to it that says humans can lick too, which I think is really gross, considering 1, there's an intruder in our house, 2, there's a dead animal, and 3, the fact that this person knew what this dog done, which showed that it's actually the person's been watching her for quite some time, which is just disgusting. Number 2. So number 2 is called The Call. Basically, it's about a babysitter who is in the house with 2 kids, and the 2 kids are upstairs in their bed, and the babysitter is downstairs. She gets a phone call, and it's obviously someone harassing her, trying to freak her out, like how are the kids doing, and I know what you're up to, and I've seen that film before, kind of thing. And so she phones the police, and they say to her that next time the person calls, that they're going to trace the call. And she gets a call back later on, and it's that person again. So the police trace it, and they phone her after the phone call, and they say, okay, so the phone call is coming from inside the house. And it turns out that the person was actually in the bedroom with the 2 kids, which is really, really creepy. Number 1. So number 1 of my all-time favorite urban legends is Bloody Mary. This is top because the main reason it freaks me out is because most people in my family actually hate mirrors for this reason. And the scary thing about it is the fact is the lore never actually used to be used for the scary part. It was, what they used to do was, if you hold a handheld mirror and a candle and walk backwards up the stairs, supposedly you used to actually be able to see your partner to be or your future lover in this mirror. And obviously the lore changed when an evil spirit actually took over the mirrors, so that whenever you say her name 3 times in the mirror, she comes out of the mirror and kills you. And that just freaks out so much people in my family, and it freaks out so much people that I know. And yeah, there's so much stuff about it. It's all over the internet. It's you'll even find it on like TV shows like Supernatural and stuff like that. So it's quite popular. It's probably one of the most popular urban legends in the world. I hope you enjoyed my top 10 countdown. If you find anything wrong with it, comment. Or if you disagree with any of my choices, let me know. And I'll catch you in the next video. Leave a like and subscribe, and let me know what other top 10 things you want me to count down.